In the early years of the 20th century, when industrial ambition collided with human dreams on the high seas, the White Star Line envisioned a trio of unmatched ocean liners, Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic, each designed not merely as transportation vessels, but as floating palaces of steel, splendor, and supremacy. Britannic, the youngest and last of the Olympic-class ships, was born in the wake of tragedy. A phoenix forged from the watery grave of her ill-fated sister Titanic, whose 1912 demise beneath the North Atlantic had shocked the world and laid bare the vulnerabilities of even the most advanced engineering. Unlike Titanic, Britannic's tale would unfold not amid the frosty silence of an iceberg-laden night, but under the Mediterranean sun, where war and healing intersected in a paradox both poignant and brutal. Originally intended to be the grandest and most luxurious of the trio, Britannic's destiny shifted drastically before she ever carried a single civilian passenger. Her interior had been designed to outshine even Titanic, with vast dining saloons, marble staircases, Turkish baths, and elegant suites. However, before the public could bask in her opulence, the outbreak of World War I in 1914 compelled the British government to requisition the ship as a hospital vessel. Renamed His Majesty's Hospital Ship, HMHS Britannic, she was hastily painted white with enormous red crosses on her hull and a green stripe to signal her humanitarian mission. Inside, her grand staterooms were stripped of luxury and converted into crowded wards. The chandeliers gave way to rows of hospital beds, and her once regal corridors echoed with the moans of wounded soldiers rather than the soft laughter of social elites. She became a lifeline between the war-torn front lines of the Gallipoli campaign and the safety of England's shores, ferrying thousands of injured and dying men across a sea that had become as dangerous as any battlefield. Among her crew was Violet Jessop, a seasoned nurse and astonishing survivor who had previously lived through both the Olympics collision in 1911 and the Titanic disaster in 1912. Now, fate had drawn her once again into the service of a vessel marked by the sea's indifferent hand. On the morning of November 21, 1916, Britannic was gliding through the azure waters of the Aegean Sea, south of the Greek island of Kea. It was a bright, clear day, and though the war raged on elsewhere, the tranquility of the moment lulled many aboard into a fragile sense of peace. At approximately 8:12 a.m., a thunderous explosion ripped through the port side of the ship near the bow. She had struck a German sea mine, one of many stealthily laid by the U-boat U-73 days earlier. The detonation was devastating. Water rushed into the first 6 watertight compartments, overwhelming even the enhanced safety measures added after Titanic's sinking. Despite the modifications, including more lifeboats, improved compartmentalization, and state-of-the-art watertight doors, Britannic's fate was sealed within minutes. Captain Charles Bartlett immediately ordered the watertight doors closed and sent out distress signals, hoping nearby vessels might aid in evacuation. But the damage was too severe. As she began listing sharply to starboard, panic erupted. Nurses rushed to evacuate patients, some of whom were sedated or bedridden. Doctors scrambled to maintain order. Lifeboats were lowered, but the ship's engines, still running in a last effort to beach her on Kea's shore, created a vortex at the stern, where the propellers churned the water with deadly force. In the chaos, 2 lifeboats were sucked into the spinning blades, instantly obliterated along with many of the passengers within. Violet Jessop, miraculously, yet again, managed to leap from her lifeboat moments before it met a similar fate, plunging into the cold water and striking her head as she swam to safety. Her tale of survival, spanning all 3 Olympic-class disasters, remains one of the most chilling and awe-inspiring testaments to the human will to live. Within just 55 minutes, less than half the time Titanic had taken, Britannic disappeared. Beneath the waves, the largest ship lost during World War I. But unlike Titanic, whose sinking claimed over 1,500 lives, Britannic's rapid daylight disaster, combined with warmer waters and closer rescue, spared the majority of those aboard. Of the 1,065 people on board, 1,035 were saved. The official death toll stood at 30, tragically low for such a massive wreck, but no less heartrending for those affected. The ship now lay silently beneath 400 feet of Mediterranean water, her hull split but remarkably intact, a ghostly echo of her former grandeur resting quietly amid the seagrass and shifting sand. In the decades that followed, Britannic was largely forgotten by popular culture, overshadowed by her infamous sister Titanic. Yet divers who visited her wreck, including famed oceanographer Jacques Cousteau, who rediscovered her in 1975, spoke in reverent tones about her size and eerie beauty. She had died not in vain, but in service, not amid fanfare and wealth, but in compassion and care. Her story lacked the romance and melodrama of Titanic's, but it possessed a solemn dignity that history too often overlooks. She served 6 successful missions before her final voyage, ferrying wounded soldiers with grace and steadiness. Those who walked her wards described a ship alive with empathy and duty, a floating sanctuary amid the nightmare of war. Today, the HMHS Britannic lies off the coast of Kia like a forgotten cathedral beneath the sea, her story one of silence and sacrifice. Unlike Titanic, no blockbuster film immortalized her voyage, no orchestras were said to play as she sank, and few monuments mark her passing. But to those who know, she was the best of what humanity could offer in a time of darkness. A machine, meant for pleasure, transformed into a beacon of mercy, a vessel of healing that paid the ultimate price. Her tale reminds us that heroism often arrives not in grand gestures, but in quiet service, and that the greatest stories may be those history forgets to tell. The Britannic, though lost, endures, in the lives she saved, in the myths she inspired, and in the deep, abiding silence of the sea that now keeps her company. As divers descend into her stillness, torchlight flickering over rusted corridors and collapsed bulkheads, they walk not only through the bones of a ship, but through the memories of a generation. Each barnacled rivet and weathered plate tells a tale not just of disaster, but of devotion, duty, and the dignity of those who sailed her. In the end, the Britannic was not the unsinkable ship she hoped to be, but perhaps she was something greater, a vessel of humanity, a ghost with a purpose, forever drifting in the ocean of remembrance. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe my channel.